Welcome to Business Talk with Buddy. You are now here with our guest for today. He is a husband, a father of three, an entrepreneur, a gun enthusiast. He owns a trucking business. You're here with David Hayes.
Word.
David, introduce yourself for the listeners and viewers.
I'm just David. I ain't nobody special, man. Just a regular guy trying to get in where I fit in. But again, my name is David Hayes. I own. I've actually own a few different businesses, but the ones that's actually operating, my main one, as you stated, is a company called Hayes Transportation. It's a small trucking company I started about 15 years ago. Just been blessed to keep that going. That's been my main source of income since it started. But more recently, I also launched a company called Hayes Firearms Academy. And there we basically just teach an array of different classes, including concealed carry. That's like the most popular one. Everybody wants to get their concealed carry. But we do a lot of stuff. We do like women's only classes. That's a big deal in the gun world because women and men learn so differently. Setting the tone and setting the environment for them is very important. So we do women's only classes. We do a lot of different classes. We do classes doesn't even involve firearms. We teach you how to secure your home, how to prepare for different types of emergencies. So we do a few different things at Hayes Firearms Academy. But again, husband going on 13 years.
Congrats.
October, 13 years I've been married. Me and my wife went to prom together. Like we've been together that 3 children, daughter, 2 daughters, and my son is the baby. My oldest is 13, got an 8-year-old daughter. I believe she's probably going on like 28 at this point, but she's 8. And then my son is 5. He'll be 6 this year. But yeah, man.
Dope, man. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So explain a little bit about your businesses.
Okay, so the oldest one is the trucking company. That's it started with me being a driver. I started driving trucks in 2005 and really had no intention on driving trucks. That's the funny thing. My dad is one of those guys that's been driving trucks for like 30 something years. And because of that, I've always been around semis. Never really wanted to do it. So like when I got out of high school, I was actually supposed to go to the military. Didn't go to the military. Pulled out, chickened out. That was at the time where George Bush declared war. And I didn't want to go to war. Just keeping it real. I didn't, man. But so I wound up working downtown, started working for this title insurance company. And I was doing, pulling property records and everything, preparing people for closings. And was doing that for a couple of years, in my mind, making decent money, but economy started to take a turn. The company was going out of business. My dad was like, yo, why don't you start driving trucks? I was like, Dad, I really want to get into real estate investing. I don't really want to drive trucks. I don't want to be dirty and, be gone. He was like, well, check this out. How about you just drive trucks for a while, get your investment money up, and then you can go into real estate investing. I was like, all right, cool. That sounds good. So that's what I did. Needless to say, I never got into real estate investing. I stayed in trucking, man. And it's one of those things that got a saying that once that diesel gets a hold of you, it doesn't let you go. And that may be true. That may be true. I started with a company called Snyder, went through them for my training, worked for them for a year as a company guy. After that, my dad was pretty much in my ear like, yo, if you feel like you're going to be doing this, you need to just go directly in and buy your truck. And so I did that, drove them for a year, bought my truck. My first truck that I bought through them. And it's just been uphill from there. And I say uphill, but with any other business venture, it's got its ups and downs. Trucking has certainly been a roller coaster at times, especially when the economy crashed. It was really bad. But overall, I've grown. I've added trucks. I've lost trucks, added trucks again, and lost trucks again. Added drivers. But overall, it's been a great experience. Trucking is definitely a great provider. Definitely a lot of money to be made in trucking. It's challenging, in the trucking industry. It's changing a little bit now, but it used to be, when I got in the game, it used to be that if you wanted to make good money, you had to be over the road, you had to be gone. I was one of those people that took the stance that I'm not, especially when my first daughter came. I wasn't gonna go over the road, because initially I was over the road for like 3-4 weeks at a time, and then I would come home for like 3 or 4 days, and I'd be gone again for another month. That's okay when you're single, but it's my philosophy that that's not okay for a family man, and so I just said I wasn't gonna do it. With that being so, obviously I sacrificed some money. To drive local in Chicago, you make less money than you will if you were to go over the road. So to combat that, that's actually where the entrepreneurial spirit came from. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take a huge pay cut, staying local in Chicago. How can I make that money up? And the answer was, well, buy another truck. Buy another truck and have 2 trucks instead of 1. Put a driver in it, And so that's pretty much where, it all started. And I just started purchasing trucks, putting them on the accounts, hiring drivers, and the rest is pretty much history. And, we pull pretty much everything, whether it be what we call dry van, over the road. If you want to go over the road, you can go over the road. I'm not going over the road, but, if you want to do it, you can do it. But mostly we pull containers. That's for people that know, we call them the rail yards. Yeah. We pull those. We pull those, man.
Containers that come in the train and they got taken.
Oh God, bro. You gotta
a bunch of horror stories.
You gotta be built special to deal with those.
I hear a bunch of horror stories about them, I tell you. But hey.
It's
the money's right though. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the main goal. Was getting the money.
For sure.
Bag, moving around out the way.
For sure. And that's why I do it. It provides me an opportunity to make money and be local, stay home, come home every day. So nobody ever said it was going to be easy. Can't expect it to be.
Facts. So, was it difficult obtaining your first truck?
No, man. Ironically, it was relatively easy. So as I stated, I was with this company called Snyder National. Snyder National is like one of the top 3 companies in the country. Super, super big company. If you ever see an orange truck on the highway, that's Snyder. They got other colors too, but they're known for their orange trucks and trailers. But because they were such a large company, they had their own finance company and truck lot. So if you were a driver for them, it was just super easy for you to finance a truck through them, and you can lease it on to them. And so the program that I went through, they call it lease purchase. And a lease purchase is basically when you're buying a truck from the company that you work for. And the deal is, let's say you sign a 3-year or 4-year lease. It's going to take you 4 years to pay this truck off. They're going to take payments every week. And, at that point, you're also responsible for all your expenses too. So that's a difference. Yeah. But you're probably going to make like triple what you were, initially making. But the caveat is you cannot leave the company until the truck is paid off. If you do, then you lose the truck. So it's basically a retention program that companies have to get and keep drivers. So it's like, yo, we'll sell you a truck, but you have to work for us, for the entire duration of the lease. So that's initially what I did, which was cool initially.
Mm-hmm.
When we got closer to, what was that, 2007, 2008, when the whole world tanked, trucking started to take a turn. And as a result, you know, the trucking companies started to feel it, and us independent contractors started to feel it too. So that first truck was it was the beginning of my entrepreneurial spirit, but it also, I took a big loss with that truck. That whole contract fell through about, I think I owed like $5,000 on that truck.
Damn.
And the whole contract fell out.
Wow.
And so lost the truck, man. That was a huge blow to my ego. It was a huge blow to my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be bothered with it anymore. I literally was looking at different jobs altogether. But that's where having a good wife comes in. You know, she didn't let me stay in that slum. You know, she talked me through it. She encouraged me, and got back up, bought another truck. And ironically, when I bought that next truck, I went on to buy like 3 trucks back to back, you know.
Wow.
After that. Yeah, it was crazy. It was such a drastically different experience from that first one. But yeah, the whole buying process though, man, I tell people all the time, in trucking, it's really easy to get a truck. Super easy. Like, buddy, you can go get a truck tomorrow. The challenging part in trucking is finding and keeping good drivers. The trucks, man, they come like that.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID, man, they'll throw a truck at you.
Yeah, truck drivers are needed. Like when I was looking at jobs a few years back, 85, probably 90 to 95% of the jobs were truck drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
well,
they're needed.
The big thing is like the baby boomers, you know, they occupy majority of the trucks. And, you know, baby boomers are coming out of the workforce now. They're, you know, they're at retirement age. And so, especially unfortunately with COVID, you know, this like they were already coming out of the trucks with them getting sick, not being able to drive anymore. That's adding to them coming out of the trucks even quicker. The DOT means Department of Transportation. They're the federal entity that regulates commercial vehicles. They, over the last, I want to say maybe going back to 2010, 2010, they started implementing a lot of regulations specifically for the drivers. So they've always had strict regulations for the trucks, you know, how we can or cannot safely operate. But since 2010, they started focusing more so on the drivers and our health specifically. So sleep apnea being an example, that's a really big deal for a lot of drivers because, you know, unfortunately, being on the road, it's a very unhealthy lifestyle. Guys get big, guys get unhealthy, and they start to develop sleep apnea. You're not getting your sleep at night. You're going to be, you know, sleepy during the day while you're driving. So the DOT started focusing on that. As you already know, like you just go to any truck stop and you'll look at the drivers, you're going to see like that's going to be a big deal for majority of the drivers that you encounter. Yeah. That took a lot of drivers out too. You know, diabetes, a lot of drivers, man. Like if you get, I forget exactly whatever the level of diabetes that requires you to take a shot, you can't drive out of the state.
Really?
They don't let you, not in a commercial vehicle. You can't drive out of the state. So you can drive around the city, but you can't drive out of the state. So just think about all of those baby boomer truckers, man, that's got diabetes and got sleep apnea, you know, then you throw COVID in the mix. Then they already was getting old to where they was retiring. It's like, we need a lot of truckers, man. Wow. We need a lot. Yeah.
Nice. So how do you find good drivers?
Man, I'm still
kind of a loaded question, I mean, but
yeah.
I'm sure somebody want to know just in case they're thinking about it.
So over the years, I want to say maybe 99% of my drivers have come word of mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, 99 of them, about 99% of them. So I used to have a few trucks contracted with this company called Roadrunner. Roadrunner is a trucking company. They're local. They do intermodal. And what they would do is they didn't have company drivers. So what they would do is when people would apply for jobs with them, they would pass them to those of us who was contracted to them.
Okay.
So they say, yo, David, I got a guy that's looking for a job. You want him? And they would actually vet him for me. So I wouldn't have to pay for drug test, background check. I wouldn't have to pay for any of that stuff. It was just a benefit of me having trucks, contracted with them. So I've gotten a few drivers through Roadrunner when I had trucks at Roadrunner, but majority of them have always just been coming basically through guys that was already working for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They got a friend or they know somebody and it's like, yo, David got a truck available, and that's usually how it happens.
Nice. Yeah. Is the turnaround rate higher that way, or does it stay pretty mellow?
Turnaround in trucking is pretty high in general.
Okay.
I will say that the lane that you're in affects it. Mm-hmm. So case in point, local, for example. Local in Chicago is highly, highly competitive. And there's always a big turnaround for like all the companies in Chicago, mainly because the different accounts. So let's say you have a company, I have a company, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this year, and the reason why I say that is because typically contracts only last for a year. So let's say I'll give you a real example. I had a contract with John Deere at one point. High paying account, crazy money. Go out to the Iowa border, drop a trailer off, come back. I mean, you got like a 6.5, 7 hour day. You make almost $1,000 for that day.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, like, I got that account. I got it on lock, right? It's 2020. I got that account on lock. So everybody's going to want to work for me. But, buddy, I got that account. Yeah. And you have some trucks as well. And that my contract is up in December. So what you're going to do is you're going to approach John Deere in December and say, yo, I'll do those loads for $900, which is still crazy money.
Yeah. I mean, you're only working 6-7 hours.
Yeah. John Deere's going to be like, cool. And then you're going to get the account in January through December. And so now if I can't come up with another account equal to that John Deere account, then my drivers are going to be like, what you going to do? Because buddy got 6 trucks sitting.
Yeah.
And so that's where your turnover comes from. With it being so competitive in Chicago, that's just always been the nature that's just always been how it is in Chicago. Which, as an owner, I don't like it, but I also don't blame the drivers, because at the end of the day, no truck driver is in the truck to sightsee. They're in it strictly for the money, so they're going to follow the money. And I can't blame them for that. When I was, a company guy, I was following the money too, I completely get it. I would say the only part that plays a role in the turnover, the only negative thing that you encounter is more so related to safety. Being in Chicago, it's oftentimes it's like a race. So, because we don't do hourly, the hourly guys, they cool. You'll see them cruising at 35 miles an hour, but with us contractors, we get paid per box. And so with local, the name of the game is to move as many boxes per day as you can, usually. And so with that, drivers tend to get a little reckless and they could be a little unsafe because they're not necessarily thinking about doing things safely. They're thinking about like, well, if I'm getting paid $200 a box, I want to make $600 for the day. It's like, well, that's kind of gonna, be pushing it. But they'll do that, and a lot of guys wind up getting popped. So they'll get popped on their logbooks. They get logbook violations. Once you get too many of them, then the insurance companies, my insurance is going to tell me like, yo, I got to fire you, because if my insurance company won't cover you, then I can't have you pulling $1 million worth of freight uninsured. you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, safety things, accidents, oh man, those are like some of the heavier contributors. Believe it or not, with a lot of younger drivers, younger being like 40 and under,
Mm-hmm.
man, and I get it, but I don't. But a lot of them, when it comes to the work ethic thing, because they're young, they still got a life,
Yeah.
you know. And though they know they're committed to doing a certain schedule, Monday through Friday, let's say 5 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Something about it, man, because they want to kick it, they want to go out. Because trucking is not such a corporate environment, it's a lot more relaxed. That tends to bleed over into how they deal with you as well, which is fine for the most part. But sometimes it allows them to think that they can get relaxed with the responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've experienced over the years, a lot of guys, especially on Fridays, payday, listen, they know they got to load.
Yeah.
But they don't want to really do it because
they just trying to get out of there.
Bro, the homie them having a party. And,
exactly.
you know, or this club, and it's like, it's a challenge, you know, because they making good money and they looking good. They got nice cars, they got nice motorcycles, so they want to live. But it's like, but you're the owner, and you're like, yo, I get it, but you know, if you don't deliver this load, and then you didn't deliver the one last week, now I can lose the account, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of guys in Chicago, the local. This is only local because when they're over the road, that's not an issue. But with local, man, it's just a challenge, man. You know, it's a few challenges
mm-hmm.
that contributes to high turnover.
Gotcha.
And I'm still, listen, if there's anyone that's watching this that has mastered it, let me know, because I'm still trying to figure that part out, man. I'm still trying to figure that part out.
Most definitely. Most definitely. That's what's up, man.
Oh.
That's, yeah. So some of the questions are going to be a little bit different than ones I sent you on the email, but they're
Cool.
they're going to be kind of like based towards potential viewers.
Gotcha.
Just some things that people probably want to know.
Gotcha.
So there's about 14.1% black drivers, right?
Okay.
And trucking is it's extremely lucrative. I've talked to truck drivers before. You've said it yourself that it's lucrative. How does the stereotype or racial or prejudiceness operate within the trucking industry? Is it there? Is it high? Is it just like the everyday life? How
yeah.
does that go?
Man, you definitely feel it. And you can feel it on a few different levels, you know, especially depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. When operating in Chicago, for the most part, it won't be in your face. Mm-hmm. You know, Chicago is pretty diverse. So you got to come across a very brave individual to be, you know, blatantly racist mm-hmm. in Chicago or in the Chicago area. Now, going into Indiana, that's a different story. Indiana is like its own world when it comes to, you know, rebel flags and just bold racist people, because I've certainly encountered a few customers. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, you know, being in Chicago, you're relatively safe from that. Now, from a business standpoint, you feel it. So what we do oftentimes, so I've operated in different capacities. So I've had trucks contracted to companies, like I said, with Roadrunner, for example. When I'm contracted to Roadrunner, I'm basically utilizing their dispatch team for all of my loads. So they will completely dispatch my trucks and all my drivers. I've not experienced a lot of racism in that capacity. Mm-hmm. However, the other trucks that just run under the authority and run over the road, I typically utilize brokers for those. That's where I've experienced it. And I think the reason for that is because usually the brokers, you know, they're not in the city. They may be in the cornfields of Iowa, you know, they may be in the cornfields of Wisconsin, they may be in Texas. Really depends on where you are, right? And so there's been times where, I'll give you an example. I had a load one time, It was a really high paying load, and it was picking up. I had a truck picking up in, I think it was Pennsylvania. It was supposed to go down to Texas. It was a really good paying load. And the truck was sent over to pick, he was en route to go pick the load up. Before he got there, I got a phone call saying that the load had canceled. Wow. Okay, it's unfortunate. It happens, but unfortunate. The thing is, the driver had already pulled up at the facility.
No
he
way.
Gets there, and there was a white driver that owned his own company as well. He was in the dock getting loaded. And the driver asked him, he's like, yo, where are you taking that load to? He's like, Texas. Okay. Sometimes companies have multiple loads, so it may not be a
coincidence, right?
Yeah. So he says, what's your pickup number? He gave him the same pickup number that he had.
No way.
So we found out basically, and the thing is, not every single broker I deal with is white. Every single one of them. I've never dealt with anything but white brokers. And you can talk to me on the phone, listen to my voice, and tell that I'm black. Right. Like, we've never seen each other, but I've seen the brokers because you go on their profiles and you can see the photo along there, in their profile, but they don't know me, but they can tell that I'm black. And it turns out, like, I secured that load and everything, but this white driver, and I don't know if they had a personal relationship, or whatever it was, but this white driver was able to come in after I had secured this load and basically pull the load from me and get that same load. There is a certain part of California, it's Northern California. I forget exactly what city it is, because we just, a group of us band together and somewhat boycotted the broker that had these loads. But there were, it's car parts that goes up to a part of California. And the way that the account used to work is you deliver up there, and I think the loads used to pay like $1.60 per mile, which is okay. But what made it profitable is they always paid really well coming out of that plant, because you get reloaded at that same plant.
Nice.
And on numerous occasions, we would send black drivers up there and they deliver and wind up sitting for days, 2, 3, 5 days, waiting for a load. And white drivers would come in after them, unload, get loaded, and go out.
Wow.
Right in our faces. And, we complained about it. It was always like some kind of excuse as to, oh, well, there's this account there. Listen, we let that go on for about 8 months. 8 months. And eventually, like I said, it was about 5 of us owners. And we just got together. It was like, you know what? We're not doing the loads anymore. So from personally, those are the experiences that I've had, and where racism certainly played a role in hindering my business. Been in the game for 16 years, I've heard a lot of horror stories, but personally, those are the ones that I've experienced.
So how do you handle those situations on the business side? I know you said like a bunch of y'all boycotted it, but how do you handle like on the personal business side?
Yeah, so I mean, dude, so when you have a driver that's in that situation, because I have to also be cognizant of the fact that my driver's not making money while he's sitting for 3, 4, 5 days, you take a big loss, because to retain him, you want to keep your driver happy, right? So though he's sitting, you want to pay him something. You want to pay him layover pay. Well, that's coming out of my pocket. Yeah. But as a business owner, I understand that I have to do that. Just to sweeten the deal, when they do that, you want to get them a hotel, because they got a bed in the truck, but he's sitting for 5 days. No one wants to just sit in the truck, in the same truck stop for 5 days. So you get him a hotel, you pay him some layover pay, you send him a stipend for some food, just some things to let the driver know, yo, I haven't forgotten about you. This isn't your fault. I know this sucks, but hey, have a steak on me today. Hey, enjoy a, Holiday Inn room. So those are some of the things that we do. As far what I do, I can't speak for everybody. Some of the things that I would do for the drivers. But again, just on that front, on the other side, is basically just making a log of those brokers, making a log of those facilities, because sometimes you'll encounter racist people at certain facilities. And me personally, I just make a log of them. I'll give you a few chances. Once I see that this is a behavior and not just a singular incident, I won't do business with you. I'll completely cancel you out. At the end of the day, no money is going to be good enough or worth, me being degraded, my driver being degraded. It's not worth it. There's way too much money in trucking for me or my driver to go through that. So we'll X them out, cancel them out. You're either going to do business in a respectful manner, a professional manner, or you won't do business with me.
Facts. That's awesome. How do you deal with the mental health of your drivers in those types of situations?
That's a big one. That's a big deal. Because, being alone for so long, man, it can begin to eat. So again, the local guys, they're cool. The local drivers, it's like you just working an 8-hour shift sometimes, wherever you work at. Sometimes it may be a little longer, 12 hours or whatever. So you don't really have to worry about the mental part with the local guys. Over the road, though, I'm a big fan, as I stated, I'm a big fan of Apple. One of the biggest things, that people loved about Apple iPhones when it came out was the FaceTime feature. Yeah. So I've always encouraged my drivers over the years to, FaceTime. Like I'll help you get an iPhone, yeah. But FaceTime your family, talk to your family. Drivers, we have these, you always spot a truck driver with this big headset that we wear, look like a, AT&T operator. But yeah, truckers are typically always on the phone, man. Like I'm the exception. I'm not on the phone that much during the day. But truckers, just to pass the time and to have some type of engagement, they talk on the phone all day. Most of the time, they're talking to other truckers. But, when drivers are over the road, I encourage them to talk to your family. That helps with socializing. It reminds you, it gives you a visual reminder of why you're out here. So that can also be encouragement. But exercise, man, like, get out here in this truck stop, bro. Like, do some laps. Yeah, they're gonna be looking at you, but do some laps, man. Try to eat better. All of these things can help your body function a bit better, and it can also help your mind. So just trying to push my drivers, man, to just be conscious of what they're doing, conscious of taking care of themselves while they're out there. And thank God, I've not had anyone have any, mental breakdowns or anything like that. I've heard horror stories, but we haven't had any yet. But yeah, one of the biggest things, man, as little as it seems, FaceTime for over-the-road drivers is a really big benefit. I recommend every over-the-road trucker have an iPhone or some kind of way to video chat their family.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions on the truck, and then we'll switch sides to the Hayes Firearm Academy.
For sure.
What's 3 things you would tell someone either looking to do business with you and or get into trucking?
So if you're looking to do business with me, just know up front, I'm very, very picky. Very picky, man. I have over the years shot down way more business partnership offers than I've accepted. But it's because I have very high standards. Okay. When it comes to business, I'm a jokester, I like to joke, I like to laugh, but when it comes to business, I'm very serious. And I'm the guy that's going to make hard decisions. And people need to understand, if you want to do business with me, that's how it's going to be. If it's right and it hurts, then we're just going to be in pain. But we're going to make the right decision. We're going to do right. I do not believe in sacrificing drivers. A lot of people, owners, will sacrifice the driver, meaning they will take a load that doesn't pay what it should. And for them to get their money, they'll they'll cheat the driver in a sense, or they'll just pay the driver pennies. I don't believe in doing that. Mm-hmm. We have a saying in trucking, the owners do. It says, say no to cheap freight. Mm-hmm. But that's another thing. You want to approach me, you got to understand, you got to be ready to knuckle up, basically. When I say negotiate, we're going to negotiate until we get the rate that we want, or be prepared to walk away. A lot of people not really ready to do that, especially new people that's new to the industry. They just jump in and like, oh yeah, I'll take it. Whatever it is, I'll take it. The brokers are in it for self, and you got to understand that from the start. As far as an individual that's trying to get into trucking, I'd say trucking is very lucrative, but be very, very safety minded, first and foremost. Whatever you do, make sure you're doing it in a safe manner. These trucks can accurately be looked at as 80,000-pound weapons. Like, you cannot play with them. Yeah. You got people's lives literally in your hands when you're dealing with these trucks. So be safety conscious. I tell everyone, if you're going to get into trucking, usually people enter as a company driver. If you're going to enter trucking as a company driver, ask yourself the question. Give yourself at least a year to drive as a company driver, but ask yourself the question at the end of that year: do I see myself doing this for the next 5 years? If the answer is yes, immediately buy a truck. Immediately buy a truck. However you can get it. If you got super good credit, you can go up there and grab a truck, do it. If you have to go to a smaller lot, you got to put $5,000 down, do it. If you got to go to a big company and do a lease purchase where they take it out, a little bit at a time, and it's going to take you 4 years to pay it off, do it. The reason I say that is in trucking, those of us that are owners or contractors, we do the same exact loads as company drivers, which means it takes the same amount of work to get that load done. The difference is the company driver may make $150 and I might make $1,000. Now, I may also have to pay $150 or $200 in diesel. I also have a $500 a week truck note, and I may also have $150 a week insurance bill, right? As well as license, tags, this, that, and the third. All in all, I may be paying $750 to $800 a week in expenses. Mm-hmm. That's true. However, that $1,000 I made on Monday takes care of that plus some. Yeah. And I still have Tuesday through Friday. Yeah. So you're going to be out there for 8 to 14 hours anyway. If you see yourself doing this for the next 5 years, you might as well fully maximize those hours. Because at least at the end of the 5 years, you'll own a truck. And if you just decide at that point to completely get out of trucking, well, at least you got a truck that you can sell. And over those last 5 years, you've made 6 figures as opposed to whatever you was making as a company driver.
That's good advice. That's good.
Word.
Good advice. We appreciate that. I'm pretty sure our listeners will as well.
No doubt.